So the first time we did this, it was over a makeshift Zoom call.
Yeah, and it was a logistical nightmare.
It took me forever because didn't we record like a solid 45 minutes and have to abandon the whole thing and start over?
What happened? There was some sort of major issue with something. We couldn't send the files or something.
Yeah, because I think what happened was I was trying to get you to record as much as you could on your end, but we just Zoomed.
Yep.
And then when you sent me your video and audio, it was at like a different frame rate or something.
Yeah, it didn't line up or something.
Something happened. So what we ended up doing is I literally just screen recorded a Zoom call.
Yep.
So we've done this before.
Once.
But it wasn't ideal. And this was before we could start traveling again.
Yeah, and it's never the same as being in the same room and
never
being able to like have a proper conversation. Because with Zoom calls, you've got to stop. You can't like, I mean, you have to anyway. When people are talking, you stop to talk. You stop so they can talk. But on that, it's like it cuts the sound.
Yeah.
So you can't.
And there's latency.
Yeah.
So like when you stop talking, if it sounds like you're done, I'll start talking, but you've started again.
Yep.
There's a little bit of a latency.
Yeah.
It's so tough. We got it done and it was fun. But even a month ago, I came over to England with the podcast gear, got Steve Paris on, Chris Purr on, and wanted to get one done with you. But unfortunately, it was while we were at Roll Hard.
Yeah.
We had an opportunity to when you came down to Steve's, but we were just so beat.
Yeah, it was like late.
It was after we rode in Bristol.
Yeah.
Rode BMX all day.
In like 40-degree weather.
It was hot. It was hot. It was definitely hot for England, but it was hot no matter where you're from.
Yeah.
And then I wanted to try to do it Friday night before the Saturday show at Roll Hard. And we had been up all day.
Yeah.
We were out that night and we were going to try to do it in the hotel room. And it was like, nope, just on fumes.
Yeah, it'd have been too much of a push. And
it was definitely a bummer for me because we didn't have this trip planned. We didn't have this planned
we didn't
yet.
know this was going to happen.
So I was like, oh shoot, like definitely like missed the opportunity to finally have you on the actual podcast with us in person.
Yeah.
Especially since I was in England with the gear. I felt it was like we were so close.
I know.
All we had to do was just like muster up some energy. But then it's super hard. Like when Steve and I recorded, I was on fumes. I'm glad that people have enjoyed that talk, but Steve is a good orator. So he was able to like kind of talk about avionics and jet engines and just kind of go. Meanwhile, I'm sitting there glazed over, just kind of like half asleep.
Yeah.
It was tough. Jet lag.
Steve carried it sort of thing.
Yeah, he did a good job.
Yeah, he did.
But you are here in my house. For people watching on YouTube, they see you in the studio, which is awesome.
In Tennessee, Chattanooga, Tennessee. This was a last minute trip, wasn't it? I booked it like last month, I think.
Yeah, it was only a few weeks out.
Yeah.
Yep. We were going to Charlotte for the congregation show.
Yep.
And then that was kind of what it was based around.
That and my birthday.
That's right. Yeah. So your birthday was coming up and the congregation show was coming up and you're like, hey, it's your 30th.
Yep.
So happy late birthday again.
Thank you.
You've actually flew here on your 30th birthday.
Yes, I did. I spent, I think it was
12 hours probably.
No. It was about, in total, I was awake for 24 hours that day.
Yes. You were up for your whole birthday.
Yeah. Because I got up at 3:30 my time in the morning.
That's 3:30 for American people.
Sorry, yeah. I'm going to have to rein that in.
No, roll with it.
Yeah. 3:30, I got up, drove down to Manchester, which is about 2.5 hours from my house. Parked my car. So I went to got in the airport, did all my check-in and stuff like that, and then didn't land here till... What time did I get here? About 4 p.m. your time?
You landed at 5 p.m. my time, but it was a 9-hour flight from Manchester to Atlanta, right?
Yeah.
And then you had a puddle jump, half-hour flight from Atlanta here to Chattanooga.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was about 5 p.m. So you'd been up since...
So by that point, it's 10 p.m. for me. So by that point, I've been up from 3:30 to 10 p.m.
Yeah. And 3:30 is 10:30 my time. The night prior.
Yep.
Yeah. So you were up for a full 24 hours.
Full 24 hours.
Great way to spend your birthday.
Oh, yeah, I know.
But you landed. Okay, so to get other people up to speed, you have flown over to stay with me while I lived in New Hampshire 3 years in a row.
Yep.
With a fourth visit, but 3 years in a row were for H2O.
Yep.
So you'd seen the Northeast in autumn, which is the best time to
The
see
best
it.
time, yeah.
And then done the 12-hour drive to Ocean City, Maryland with me in various different cars. I took a different car each year. The Corvair, the E28 7 Series, then the Lada. And then you came over that following winter for like a week. So that's basically all you had seen as an adult of the U.S. So now that I'm living in Chattanooga, you hadn't seen the Smoky Mountains, you hadn't seen the South. So the second you got off the plane, we took you right to Shuford's, that barbecue joint that's in like a shack.
Place. Yeah.
Yeah. And like basically, as far as I could tell, blew your mind
Yeah,
with
it
like
was amazing. Yeah, it was really good.
Southern food, barbecue.
Yeah, it was a good 30th birthday meal.
Good.
Put it that
Good to
way.
know.
Yeah.
Yep. Oh, and we had told them, because they're the same crew, we go like at least once a week.
Yep.
And like they know us there. And we had said that we brought you in from England and this was the first stop.
Yep.
But that it was also your 30th birthday. So the girl that works there brought out, after we were eating, basically brought out like a whole sampler so you could try like one of everything.
Try a few bits of like southern barbecue. And
that was so nice of her, yeah.
Yeah, it was like coleslaw,
Potato salad, banana pudding.
The banana pudding was insane.
Unbelievable.
Absolutely insane. I could feel the diabetes
Yeah.
as I was eating it.
I mean, that banana pudding is some of the best in this area too.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's unbelievable.
All home cooked stuff. So yeah, so your 30th birthday was pretty cool. You arrived here safe and sound, and the weather's been beautiful.
The weather's been amazing.
It's been so good.
Yeah, so good. It's especially coming from. It started to get cold in the UK. It was starting to get like to the point where it was just miserable. It's going to be even worse when I go back. But
Yeah.
it's nice to have came over and got a bit more of like a, because we didn't really have like an autumn.
Right.
It usually just goes from really hot to freezing cold and raining, which it did before I came. So it's been nice to have like the transition be a bit smoother from the ridiculous summer we had.
Yeah. Hot.
Where you were there.
Yeah.
30 degree was not uncommon, but those 2 weeks I think we had 2 heat waves. Both heat waves got to like high 30s.
Yeah, and so that's 90s into 100
which
Fahrenheit.
is,
Like
for England,
yeah,
unheard of.
yeah.
Like it. Totally,
nothing has central AC, and nobody can like handle it. Nobody's used to that.
There's no infrastructure for that.
Right.
It's not built. England isn't built for temperatures over 20 degrees. It's just not.
Crazy.
Cars don't have aircon, or if they do, they're not gassed.
Yep.
Because nobody ever thinks, oh, it's going to be really hot and better go and gas my car.
Yeah.
Nowhere has, like, say, central AC. Like, no houses have AC.
Right.
Yeah. The only places that did seem to have AC was stuff like supermarkets.
Yep.
And that's because they need to keep the food cold.
Well, I went into a grocery store in Wales when we first landed with Steve, and they had like the produce, like the open face produce like fridges. Mm-hmm. They had these heavy curtains all down in front of them, and they had these signs everywhere saying like, "We got to keep."
See, I've never seen that.
Yeah, Steve said he had never seen it.
That was the first time I'd ever seen curtains over the fridges, like the open fridges.
Yeah, crazy.
Because it never gets that hot.
It was hot. I mean, I've joked around with our friend group saying like, and in a way, this is accurate. We left Chattanooga in August in like hot heat, but humid, choking you out, humid heat, to a not humid, but equally as hot climate in England. So it was refreshing in a way. The sun is hot. It's hot. I got burned in England. I mean, it was hot, but I was definitely kind of playing it up because it was like, oh, we came from Tennessee to here. This is fine. What's everybody whining about?
Yeah.
That's just part of the fun. But it totally was hot. I mean, the whole day at Roll Hard, we were in the shade, like trying to stay out of the sun.
Yeah.
I mean, coming from Tennessee.
Like, walk out the sun into the sun for a little bit to look at a car or something, or to move from one part of shade to another part of shade.
Yep.
But yeah, just drank about 18 gallons of water.
As much as you could.
As much water as I could drink.
Yep.
I was driving the E28.
No AC, right?
No aircon.
Oh.
Black car. Luckily, it's not leather. If it was leather, I don't know if I'd have made it.
Was it 5 hours down to Wales?
Yeah, it was 5.5.
Plus 2 sitting in traffic?
Yeah, for sitting in. I had an hour and a half sat on the motorway in Birmingham because there'd been a massive accident on the other side of the road. with like an air ambulance and everything. It was
Yeah.
really,
Yeah.
it was a bad crash. To
Yeah.
be fair.
Medevac. Yeah. Medevac came in.
And then, yeah, taking a journey in the UK is never ever what you think it's going to be.
Right.
So it doesn't matter what time. If you set off early, you're still going to get there
As late as you fear.
yeah, like you're either going to get there late or you're going to get there just before
Right.
you were supposed to be. You can set off like an hour early and you'll get there 15 minutes before you're meant to arrive.
So, for those who don't know, where are you at in England?
I live near Middlesbrough, or it's Saltburn. It's basically Saltburn, but it's a little town just outside of Saltburn.
Yep.
But that's in the northeast, which is closest to Middlesbrough, is like the biggest town.
Yep.
Yeah,
and I've stayed with you up there. It's a beautiful area.
it is.
We got half and half. We got good weather, and then we got typical British weather.
Yep.
Like the day we went up to Whitby was like super rainy and dismal and British weather.
But there was some nice.
Yep. The day we flew in, a few years ago now, the day we flew in was beautiful. We went down to the pier in Saltburn and all that. So yeah, so you making the trek from up there, basically diagonally southwest, all the way across.
It's literally the other corner of the country.
Because Steve's down in Beaufort, Wales, like on the coast, like beyond Cardiff.
Yep. Right down south.
But yeah, it was hot, and although the E28 doesn't have AC, that's definitely another car. Since we did the last episode, you've finished that car.
Yeah.
Because it was. I mean, I guess talk about that car a little bit. It was your car for like many years now, but you had it running and driving and like done in its own form.
Yep.
And then tore it all apart and basically did a restoration.
Yeah. So I bought the car for just before my 21st birthday.
Yep.
Funnily enough. And then I couldn't afford to do anything with it for about at least 6 months.
Yeah.
I don't think I even insured it till sort of spring. The after I'd bought it, because I bought it like the September, and I don't think I insured it till spring. And then I drove it. I bought Broadway static coilovers for it because at the time you couldn't buy BCs.
Yeah.
Good coilovers, but nowadays I would probably have just bought BCs. And then put wheels on it. I've done like a few sets of splits. I've had mostly OZs. I've had like Futuras, Braytons, Type 2s. And I never really got into the rest. I did rear beam bushes because they're just
all
always
over the place.
Yeah, like you'd shift gear and the back end would bang into the back of the car. I feel like the back end was going to fall out on every shift. So I had to do that. And just general sort of maintenance stuff. If it needed something, I'd do it.
Yeah.
But there was times when it'd get rusty and I'd like send it to a garage to get sorted and stuff. And it was patched, but it wasn't.
Right.
I knew there was bits that needed addressing. So I finally got to a point where I felt like I had the knowledge and the patience to do it properly. I had the unit with a ramp and all that sort of stuff. So I thought,
Right. Huge.
I think it was
after.
It was 2019.
It was after because I came down came over in June.
Yeah.
And we drove that car to Players Classic, which
Yeah.
was like 7 hours.
Yeah.
7 or 8 hours.
Yeah.
And then it was probably shortly after that.
It wasn't long after that.
Well, because it was 2020 when we did this first episode, because that's when I started the podcast.
Mid-COVID.
And I don't remember when you started to tear that car apart.
So I'm pretty sure I was on the fence about doing it, about like going full,
Right.
take everything off the bottom and
Like,
start again.
Bare unibody.
I was on the fence. And then everything happened with COVID. And I was like, right, well, it doesn't look like I'm going anywhere or doing anything
Right.
for the foreseeable future. So now was the time. So that was when, it was 2019, late 2019 or early 2020.
Right.
That I stripped it, basically took the engine out.
It tore it right down to a bare shell.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Literally everything was off the underside. I didn't do the interior. Well, I had to take the front, like the seats out and the carpet up just to do like patches on the floor. But the full underside was off the car.
Yeah.
I'd never even taken the engine out before that point. I'd never had to. The engine was reliable as hell. I drove it to Wörthersee twice.
Yeah.
On that engine.
Yep. And which I was a part of.
Yeah.
You know, that
you were
first
there
time.
for the first one.
Yep. Insane. That was 24 hours worth of driving.
Yes, it was.
One way.
One way.
One way.
And we did it on the way home. We did the entire thing in 24 hours. Me and Tom.
Yep.
That could have its own podcast.
Which I've talked about. I've glazed over your end of it, but I've talked about the Wörthersee trip, the drive from England to Austria.
Done like a full podcast on it, haven't you?
Yeah, kind of. Yeah, because Corey was on that trip with me, so we kind of talked about it. But we did definitely talk about your like breakdown, having to stay the night near Dover, and then so other than like the first 7 hours of your drive, you basically did it in one go because we were waiting at Marcel's in Cologne, Germany, and it was the evening that you guys arrived. And we were all at Marcel's waiting for you guys. And you guys basically drove in, arrived, introduced yourselves to everybody. We all got in our cars and headed for Austria.
Yeah, that was it. We
drove through the night.
20 minutes to sort of sit down and process that we were now about to be driving.
Like, barely sit down because we had just eaten. We all sat down and ate.
So everyone was like...
At Marcel's. And then you guys showed up. We all just kind of...
Everyone was outside kind of ready to get in the cars and leave. And we were just like, can we... have a nap or something? No.
Yep. The answer was no.
None of that.
We ended up driving through the night. We stopped in Munich to meet up with Ollie and Phil. Phil with the Amazon and Ollie with the 2002 at McDonald's right before entering the Austrian Alps.
Right before the sunrise. So
we went into the McDonald's before Phil and Ollie had arrived. And I think a couple other guys too. But it was a pretty good crew of us. It was 1, 2, Jules... Marcel, you, we were 6 cars probably. And we walked into that McDonald's and it was pitch dark out, right? Because it was like 4 a.m, super dark. It was like a McDonald's in a rest stop off the motorway. And we hung out in there for a while. We all sat down, we all ate. And as we came out, it was dusk. Or dawn, I should say, not dusk.
Yeah.
It was dawn. But the sun wasn't up yet, but just enough. I came out that front door McDonald's, that one we went in, and all of a sudden it was like this mural of these dark peaks. Like you still could barely see, but you could differentiate from the sky in the peaks. And it was like Alps. And it was like, oh, this has been here this whole time.
Yeah.
Cause the whole drive into Munich, like we couldn't see anything. And I've got so much video footage, and unfortunately I didn't have a YouTube channel. I started a YouTube channel like 5 months or 6 months after this trip, but I took a bunch of photos and videos of us leaving that McDonald's, and that's when we entered the Alps, and it was just the most incredible thing I've ever...
Yeah. Like walking out of the McDonald's and just seeing like the silhouette of
unreal.
The mountains, and then,
And I kept saying this to you and to Corey, that you specifically, because Frank, our buddy from here in Maine, and Tom were like, you were in your car, your 1980s 5 Series BMW, so far from home, entering the Alps, and I've done that here in America, which is obviously huge. I mean, it's huge.
The same,
that drive.
Distances.
Well, that drive is the drive we do the short way of America, from New Hampshire to Florida. Like going to widthways takes a solid 2 to 3 days if you don't stop driving. But the way I saw it was we were entering the Alps, and we were just along for the ride. We were driving around in Dean's E32 or Jules's 100 or Marcel's W108.
Yeah, whichever car you
were changing around.
Into,
So for me, I was just over there in people's cars. But every time I saw your car, as we were going through the Alps, like through the tunnels, then coming out through the Alps and crossing over into Austria, I kept thinking like, this is like an incredible road trip for you and your car. Because it's like, you've come from England. So you've done England, France, Belgium, the Netherlands, Germany. Now you're in Austria. Definitely a wild, wild trip. You know, I kind of put myself in your shoes because I've been in those shoes here. And
like driving the Corvair down to
Helen. Or the 7 Series to Los Angeles. The Century back home. The Q45 cross country. The Cabrio cross country. All the years before when I just had random Mark IIs that I drive cross country and stuff. So that was really cool. So rolling into the Mishkulnik, is that how you pronounce it? The Mishkulnik. They used to be the Shell gas station. And that infamous Shell gas station in Velden.
Yeah, in Velden. Just outside Velden.
Yep. rolling in, the week before Wörthersee, and like there's some cars there already. Man, I get goosebumps thinking about it.
I
But
know.
you did it in your car.
Yep. That was the thing. I really, we could have done it in a normal car, but because that car I plan on never selling.
Yeah.
It's like my sort of keeper. Well, obviously because I've just spent like however much I've spent restoring it.
Yeah,
I
proper
don't-
restored it.
Yeah, like I don't plan on ever getting rid of that car.
Right.
So for me, those sorts of drives are why I have that car.
Right.
I don't have it to take to a show and park up. I do that, but my thing with that car is the memories with it. It's not what it looks. It is what it looks like, but it's not like the sort of the presence or anything. It's literally my car that I drive when I want to make memories,
Right.
sort of thing.
Yep.
So
Yeah, and
doing
that's a
stuff
good
like
thing.
that and doing Wörthersee, doing like when you came over for players. I've done Wörthersee twice actually, so with like two totally different sets of friends.
Yep. Yeah, you did it the year after, and I was gonna try to make it over, and it was such a big trip that I can't remember what was on. I
can't remember why you didn't make it.
Well, I was in the middle of building the 700 and getting that ready for Alpine Volksfair. I think that was the deal.
Yeah.
And I had done Wörthersee the year prior, and it was such a big trip. So it was either flying to Germany.
Yeah, when you did it, you came over for a month.
Yes,
so that was like a
exactly.
big
Yep.
sort of undertaking for you.
And so Frank came over and did it again with you guys. And I watching all of that, I fear missing out for sure. But I ended up coming over for Players Classic or whatever. But after 2018 and before 2020, I wanted to bring the Corvair over and do that trip.
Yeah.
Like maybe not necessarily from England, but from Germany, bring it into port. And obviously Germany kind of fell apart as far as driving modified cars through there.
Yep.
And then Wörthersee fell apart.
Yep. Which is a massive shame.
And it's
So even from the year we went, so 2019,
18 we did it. Yep.
2019 was a totally different thing.
Really?
Totally different.
Yeah.
I mean, 2018 we'd be going to say Turbo Curve,
Yep.
and we'd get in the cars and we'd drive there, and it wouldn't take that long. There might be a bit of traffic,
Right.
like coming in, but 2019 was just like we
Gridlock.
spent the entire week, like the entire weekend of the show, we were in gridlock traffic.
Wow.
Just like
Can't go anywhere.
it didn't feel like we'd actually managed to get anywhere, because by the time we got anywhere, we'd been sat in traffic for 2 hours and it was miserable.
Yeah.
It was still a good trip, and I enjoy it. I still wouldn't have changed anything about it, but it's just a shame that it went that way in such a short space of time.
Yeah, for us, it's such a short space of time. I'm glad that I made it happen. From America, it was so much harder to like make Wörthersee happen, because that show has been going on since like 1980.
I know.
Like insane.
Yeah.
That show has such a longer than any other European car show.
Yeah,
That show went on for over 30 years, 35 years. And it got so big to the point where Volkswagen would unveil the new GTI there.
Yeah.
Like that's where the new GTI would be unveiled. And I feel so lucky, although I'm so bummed that I'll more than likely never have a chance to ship a car over there and drive it to Wörthersee and experience it the way it used to be.
Yeah.
I'm so glad I made it happen, because not knowing that 2020 was coming to kink everything, and then after that, Wörthersee would basically be no more.
Yeah. And it is now. It's totally. I
Yeah.
mean, did you see what happened? So
Yeah,
XS
Andy, I saw Andy's post.
XS had like a show,
Yep.
and
There's like 400
all
cars
the cars that were just there for the show got like impounded.
Yeah.
Tickets for everything,
Like €1,000 tickets, 1,000
or
euros.
just cars taken off them, and then that's just get your wallet out and
Yep.
basically tell them to take what they want.
And
Because
and that's kind of what happened to Ocean City.
yeah, same thing
As well.
They've all gone the same way. It's strange.
So think of it from your shoes too. Ocean City H2O was going on since I think 01. I think if I might have this wrong. I think 99 was the first one, and it was in Connecticut. Then there was a second one that was held somewhere else. I think the third one, which was like 2001, was held in Ocean City, Maryland. So from 2001 to basically 2020 was this run. In 16, 17, and 18, you came over and experienced it in what was its insanity, but like it hadn't gotten
Still
to
manageable.
Impound Fest yet.
Yeah.
19 and 20 were like full blown Impound Fest. So it's kind of the same way, I've made some posts. I've made some H2O posts or some Ocean City posts recently because it was just a couple weeks ago that would be going.
Yeah.
And so many people, even friends of yours from England, were like, I can't believe I never made it. Like, I'll never get a chance to experience it.
Yeah.
And you were able to experience it 3 times.
Yeah.
Which is so cool.
Yeah, I'm thankful that I had the sort of the want to do it, because if I hadn't have messaged you that year, like 2016, I think I messaged you saying like, I'm thinking about doing H2O. Can I like basically bum a lift?
Yep. And I was like,
and
book
you're
a flight.
Yeah, just book a flight.
Book a flight.
We'll do whatever. And
Yep.
yeah, I'm very grateful that I managed to actually have the bottle to do that, and I'm grateful to you for actually being like, yeah, we'll let some English kid come over and hang out with us for a week or whatever.
Well, we'd kind of become friends on the internet anyway, and I'd met you earlier that year at Players.
Yeah, Players.
And I don't know if I'd met you in 2015 at Players, because I came over in 2015 as well.
It was the year you were in the Slam Rover.
That was 2015.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then I saw you again in 2016.
Yep.
And that year I was just in a friend's Volvo wagon.
Yeah.
It wasn't in the show. It was just a stock car. 2015 was in the 48 Land Rover.
Yep.
The slammed V8 one. And then 2016 was just there as a spectator. And yeah. And so I'd met you those 2 years. We were friends on the internet.
Yeah. Just
later
like,
that summer.
Followed the Governor's Club and had a Governor's Club sticker on my car and
insane.
all that sort of stuff.
Yep. And and you were just kind of like shot in the dark, like,
yeah, would you be game for me coming over? And
easy.
Yeah, insane. Because I've been into cars, I've been into like, I suppose you could call it the scene. I've been like following it since about 2012 by that point. So I followed a lot of Americans on Instagram. Obviously, like when Instagram was good and you actually saw what people were doing,
in who you followed,
and who you wanted to see what they were doing,
right?
And every year, like around H2O, I'd see it. And so I'd follow. I'd like live vicariously through all the people, all the Americans that I followed, that were like making it out to these insane events all over America. And then that year I was like at an impasse with my job and stuff, and I knew I was about to get laid off from work, so I thought like I'm not in any sort of, I needed to use up holidays, and so I didn't have to like either get them taken off me when I left my job or whatever.
Right.
So I thought I'll just roll the dice and see what you say, and it ended up being that first 2016 trip is probably the best H2O trip for me was 2016. But I don't know if that was because everything was, I hadn't seen America in as an adult. I'd been to Florida when I was a kid, but
right.
I hadn't like seen all like the different, how different everything is here, like how open everything is.
Yeah.
Like there's just space everywhere, and all the cars are so different.
Yeah.
The food's so different.
Yeah.
The coffee's different. Everything.
2016 was an amazing year, but a tough year weather-wise.
Yes, it was.
Poured and poured.
It did.
The year prior was Hurricane Joaquin, and it was treacherous. And I took the Corvair to that year too. But the next year, they didn't have a name for the storm.
No, but it was.
But it was like worse. But it was, Ocean City seemed like worse weather 2016 than it was 2015, or comparable. But they didn't have a name for the hurricane. But after I think the first 2 days we were there, it did clear up. I think Saturday and Sunday were the last like 2 good days.
Yeah.
But it was incredible. And the fact that you were able to make it for 2017 and 18 as well, both of those years, the whole week was phenomenal weather.
Yeah, it was.
Didn't rain at all.
No. And then we got back up. So I think it was 2017 when I stayed for a week after. Mm-hmm. I think. I can't remember.
18.
Might have been 18.
18.
Seems like every time I come over, it's a rush.
It was 18 because you flew in. We picked you up at Boston Logan on our way to Ocean City at 10 p.m.
That was it.
On a 12-hour drive.
Yep.
Boston's 2 hours in. We picked you up at 10 p.m.
That was the middle of a rainstorm as well.
Pouring rain.
Yeah.
I had the Lada on the trailer. I remember we stopped. Corey was driving his B5 Avant, and we stopped at a random like Home Depot outside of Boston and took his wagon into the city to Boston to pick you up. Came back to the parking lot, loaded up, and headed out straight to Ocean City. And that
was a long day.
Oh, it was just insane.
For me, anyway.
And like my like body was shutting down. I had that weird like. It turned out I think it was my saliva glands had blocked, so I had like my whole face had inflamed, but not yet. It happened overnight while we drove there. I kept getting like super lightheaded, and boy, that turned into a nightmare.
Yeah, it did turn into a bit of a...
Yeah.
I remember you having like sour sweets.
Yeah, so once they figured out...
It was your saliva glands.
That it might be my saliva glands, they told me to like suck on sour candy to precipitate...
To activate.
Yeah, to precipitate my like saliva glands working. That was a crazy year. But that's the year you stayed for a week after because we picked you up on our way to Ocean City. And on the way back, after we got back, Kyron came up.
Yes,
and that's when we photographed the E23 and the Corvair for Speed Hunters. Ultimately, the E23 for S3 Magazine.
Yep. Because
Speed Hunters dragged their feet for like 2 or 3 years.
On that.
And Kyron, I mean, that set was one of Kyron's favorites. One of my favorites, but one of Kyron's favorite sets he's ever photographed.
That was the one at the pumpkin patch.
Yeah. Yeah, so that worked out real well.
And the weather was really nice again.
Weather was perfect.
At that time.
Yeah.
It was like really warm and it was a little bit humid, if I remember correctly, 1 or 2 of the days.
Ocean City, maybe. It wasn't too bad back home.
Yeah, it was like, I think it was just hot back in New Hampshire.
Maybe a couple days. I think it was autumn. The leaves were changing. Yeah. Well, let's talk about Ain't Dead Yet. I don't think we really had a chance to talk too much about that on the last episode.
No, not really.
We kind of did what we're doing now, just kind of like reminisced on some trips and whatnot. But because you've started to do so much more with Ain't Dead Yet as far as like your commission work since we've talked last.
Yeah.
So, and you've added tooling and machinery to your unit as well, which is amazing. So you're a machinist by trade.
Yep. Day job is a machinist.
And you've kind of bled that into your hobby with cars.
Yes. So Ain't Dead Yet started as a brand. Basically, it started as clothes. It had nothing to do with working on cars or making things for cars. It was literally just to sell t-shirts and hoodies. It's kind of like I had an itch for like an artistic outlet, and I suppose that was it. So I set it up as that, and then found out that it's very hard to sling merch and
try to
make a living doing it. And
unreal.
All that sorts. Because I started it when I was between jobs. So when I started it up, I didn't have a job. So I was like I could put all my time and effort into it and try and make it work.
It's the worst.
But it's like...
It's so scary.
Yeah, it's so hard.
Yep.
It's such... Like, you've got to pay a lot out and you might not get it back.
Yep.
You don't know when you're going to get it back.
Yep.
The shipping situations with everything, like people not getting the stuff or people ordering the wrong thing and wanting to send it back, and all like the fulfillment side of things. That's all.
Yep.
Props to anybody that can do it full time for a living.
Yeah. It's why I didn't do it full time with the Governors Club. I mean, you saw my setup out here. I've got merch racks and like a shipping station and like all my cardboard boxes and bubble wrap and
which I have to a degree. Yeah. But I never wanted it. It never got to the point where I could have made a living just doing that and posting stuff on Instagram.
Right.
So I've had a unit now for, I don't even know, probably 8 years. And I'd always worked on my own cars, basically out of being cheap.
Yep.
I didn't want to I wanted to do stuff to my car, and I didn't want to take it to a garage and pay them to do it. So I was like, well, I'm going to figure out how to do it myself. And
literally the age-old story.
Yeah, it is.
That's how my dad started his business.
Yeah, it's everybody does the same thing. Everybody that has a bit of sort of a mechanical mindset will just be like, well, I can do that myself, so why am I going to pay someone else to do it when I can just buy some spanners and get to work?
That's a wrench, by the way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Spanner translate to wrench.
That's how my dad got started in his business. He was working on his own car because he couldn't afford to pay someone else to fix it.
Yeah.
And then he ended up going as far as like rebuilding a small block V8 that was in one of his Chevys. Word got around town that the Ludwig boy had rebuilt the motor in his truck, and someone else had said, "Hey, will you rebuild mine?"
Yeah.
My dad's like, "Oh, I guess." And then it's
snowballed into
Yep.
having a full blown.
then he had a 3-bay shop with a
Yeah.
towing company, and
Yeah.
40 years later was like killing it.
Yeah.
But
Insane.
yeah, so I mean that's how you got into it
So
too.
that's same thing. I just started fixing my own car and never had any. I did my job. I've been machining now for 10 years.
Wow.
So
yeah.
I did that for my day job. But
Your dad owned the shop too, right?
Yeah. So I actually where I'd served my time was my dad's company.
Yep.
Um,
What'd they make there?
It was more of a fabrication company, to be honest.
Oh,
They did
okay.
a lot of fabrication pipeline stuff, and
Yep.
we mostly did job shop stuff for the local. There was like a local copper foundry up the road that we used to do stuff for, like copper plugs and stuff like that.
Yep.
Which was good because it not a lot of people nowadays, machinists, have been in like a job shop setting. Most CNC stuff now is production. You sat at a machine, you press go, and you wait for it to spit a part out, and then you press go again and wait for it to spit a part out.
Right.
So I'm glad of that part of my career, but I never seen the potential to take that to do my own thing till maybe a few years ago.
Yep.
Because I'd always just done CNC. I'd never done any manual. Well, I did, but like in college. So we got put on an old lathe that we didn't get shown anything on how to do it. We didn't get shown what handle did what or anything. You were just like flinging chuck keys all over the place. And,
Wow. Yeah.
just like making way too big cuts at way too faster speeds,
Yep.
and like just
Yeah, exactly.
seeing what worked and what didn't work,
Wow.
and sending like chicken wire around the entire place. And,
Yep.
yeah, technical colleges are just a total waste of time.
Yeah.
So I started getting more into like wanting to do my own thing, mainly because I came over and visited you. It's pretty much started from 2016.
I remember that, and I wasn't gonna like bring that up to take any credit, but I do remember we were talking about because I had fluctuated in and out of the Governor's Club being my only means of income, and how stressful it was, and I could tell that was something that you were interested in doing as far as just like a brand or working for yourself.
Yeah.
And I remember Ain't Dead Yet kind of forming out of some of our conversations that we've had.
Yeah,
yeah,
pretty much. Yeah,
which is
it was,
awesome.
It was a massive sort of. It made it seem like I could do it. You made it look possible, basically.
Which is amazing.
Which is
which is amazing
It's a credit
because
to you, if anything. Yeah.
I mean, if I look at it in any light like that, it's that I contained the insanity decently, because inside my entire body was just a hurricane of like nightmarish scenarios. And
of self-employment.
if whatever came out into fruition, like into the real world, looked like it was any
appealing.
sort of like
Yeah.
inside a box or polished in any sort of way, or like doable for anybody in any sort of way, then job well done. But inside it was like everything's breaking, abort, abort.
Yeah, I know. It's still like that now every time I see you.
I mean,
every time I see you, you're like pulling your hair out over having 1,000,001 things to do.
yeah.
Just self-employment.
And then I use guys like Robert from with Technic, who's been doing
An established thing.
incredible things in
Yeah.
like the Porsche industry for 20 or 30 years, 20 at least, saying things like, just get used to the ride.
Yeah.
It's like, this is it.
Yep.
This is always it. Like
Buckle up.
this isn't, people aren't cut out for this. That's why they work day jobs in front of a
9 to 5s.
desk or whatever. And that may be simply because they don't feel like taking a leap of faith or just diving headfirst into something that they don't know if it'll work. They'd rather stay on the safe side, the safe options, stay inside the bubble and just work for the man and work with the ceiling.
Yep.
You've got the ceiling. You go any higher. And if you put in 25 years, you'll get the gold watch and you'll get a pension and you'll get a chance to retire with whatever health you have left.
Yep.
So for us, it's like, I don't know, you're kind of like toting that line.
I'm still not either way.
But
I'm
playing it safe though. You've got a house, you've
Yeah.
got a shop with some incredible machinery, which we
Yeah.
can talk about. And you're getting there. For me, I had to jump in cold turkey because I'd been laid off from my job, which was in agriculture. And I bought a laser machine and I had no idea how to use it. And when it arrived, I mean, I had to take, I mean, I had like $1,500 or $2,000 to my name when I got laid off, right? And rent was like $1,200 a month or something. I was living by the skin of my teeth, paycheck to paycheck. And this was at 30 years old. I was at 30 years old. This is 7 years ago.
My age now.
Yeah. And so I had, like, I don't know, $1,500 to my name. I'd say maybe 2,000 at the time. And when I got laid off, I had no income and I really wanted to start the laser gig. I had a friend in England that was doing it and I'd visited him a few times and I kind of saw like the outline of like what that entailed. And I liked how low impact it was because BMX kind of destroyed my body. And I liked how you could make your own schedule. You could grind day and night and then take off a week or whatever. You made your own shots. So when I ordered my laser machine and it showed up, what happened was before that, long story short, because I've already talked about it on here, I spent like $1,500 on a W109, which Dean now owns in England.
The cream one.
Yep. So local shop up the street from me had sold me a couple cars before, my E12 and a few other cars. And I tried to buy it. It wasn't for sale. Finally, it was for sale. He called me. He wanted like $2,500. I said, I can't. I've literally just been laid off. But if you take 15, I'll do it. And he's like, you own it. So that's when I bought that car to flip it, to fund a laser machine. So I invested $1,500, had a few $100s left to my name. Done. Sold it to a friend of ours in England. I know you don't really know Bruce, but sold it to a mutual friend of ours in England for $5,500 like the next day. And so there's made $4,000 profit one day. And I was nervous to offer Randy, the guy who owned the shop, $1,500. He had $2,500 invested in it because the customer had kind of bailed. They finished a few things. And I didn't want to insult him, but I was like, hey, look, winter was coming. He wanted to get some cars out of the yard so they could plow snow. And I just said, listen, this is what I can do. And it worked out. And I sold it like later that day or a few days later. It was within the week to Bruce. And he PayPal'd me like increments of like $800 every week. So it was as if I still had a job.
You still had a job, yeah.
Ordered the laser machine, thing landed, had no idea how to use it. And now this is my job. Like no idea how I didn't know how I was going to actually physically operate the mechanicals of the machine. Didn't know how I was going to design in CAD. I had never worked with any CAD design programs before. And I didn't know how I was going to market any products I might be able to make with that. So through the Governors Club, I started making like wooden mirror hangers. With the Governors Club logo on them. So I'm like, I'll start there. Like, I don't need to bring in work for someone else. I'll just keep making these mirror hangers.
Governors Club stuff.
I'll keep making these hangers until I'm like, that looks like a product someone could pay money for. Put it on the website, made a couple grand in like the first couple weeks or the first month maybe of them being up on the site. And I was like, all right, I've been pushed out of the facility now. I'm like out in the world or I'm on the rails. Let's go. And so to come back, applying it to where you're at, I did it cold turkey. And out of desperation, out of sheer, like a few things involved. All right, I turned 30. There's the number, right? I don't freak out about numbers, but I use that as an excuse. I'm like, all right, here's 30. Here's like, I'm entering my 30s. I want to do something for myself. I want to grab life by the horn, so to say, like right now. Like, and I felt like my 20s were that too, but financially now I want to build something and go and make sure it's as fun as possible. So I'm not hating my life in my 30s. But I kind of had to do it cold turkey. And I know you kind of feel like it's not like working as fast as I want it to go, but at least you have a job. I have
like a safety net.
And you can kind of phase it out when you're ready,
So that's basically what I've been trying to do. I'm gradually doing more within dead, like in the shop, in my own shop, working on people's cars, and the machining jobs to sort of move away from needing to go to my day job. Because at the end of the day, they don't care about anybody that they employ.
Right.
It's like I'm making them insane amounts of money.
4 times what they're paying
Yeah,
you or
literally,
more.
yeah, easily.
Exactly.
So, and I mean, my new job I enjoy to a degree, don't get me wrong, but it's not, there's no no real satisfaction in it. I'm not building something.
Right.
For
you
me.
clock in and clock out.
Yeah, I'm just like, I'm going to work, doing my job, going home.
Yeah.
Like, that's what I do. But at the same time, with the way England is at the minute, with the cost of living, nobody's got much money to pay their electric bill, never mind pay me to make them something or machine them something or work on the car.
Yep. That's when you start to hang out at like Caffeine and Machine.
Yeah.
Just start going there and handing out business cards.
Yeah.
To all these guys with like these like
with stupid cars,
E-types and stuff, and be like, and like I don't know, like that's any sort of crazy marketing. Make these cool ain't dead yet business cards.
Yeah.
Machine them out of like aluminum or something.
Well, that's the thing. If they laid me off next week, I would have to go out and do that.
You'd have to.
I'd have to.
Yeah.
There'd be no. I mean, I could go out and get another machine job, but I'm back to square one, doing the same thing again.
Yep. Yep.
So, I just need to make the jump.
Yeah.
Is basically what it's down to. It's down to me being like, right, now's the time. I know now is never the time. Like, it's never right. It's never the right time.
Never.
Never.
Yep.
It's like
never.
People say the same thing about having kids and stuff. It's like, it's never the right time to actually just suck it up and take the jump.
And you got to do it smart, you know? Like, you got to have like a bit of a plan.
Bit of a plan jumping into it. Yeah.
If it doesn't involve the layoff,
yep.
It almost has to be like, all right, for the next 6 months or the next year even, I'm going to bank.
Yep.
I'm going to grind with Ain't Dead Yet. I'm going to grind at work. And that 1 year will be horrendous because you're working 2 full-time jobs. You're going to work at the machine shop,
which I've pretty much been doing.
Right, exactly.
For like the last 2 years.
And you're just entering a new project, which we'll also talk about. But yeah, so it's like 2 full-time jobs.
Yeah.
And your own personal projects aren't commission work that bring in money to pay your bills every month, but it's ultimately your billboard.
Yeah.
It's like your website.
It is,
in a way.
It's my Instagram, like the Ain't Dead Yet Instagram is its own sort of calendar, like. But
it made your jump. I mean, and I'm honored in any sort of way if us hanging out and the conversations we've had, like the late night talks or whatever, like helped you go home and be like, even not quit your job and start something full time, but to be like, all right, now's the time that I start something.
Yeah, and it was. It literally was.
Yeah, like, that's great.
My mid-20s, I think it was like 26.
Yep.
I think when the first time I came over.
5 years ago.
Yeah, 25 then.
6 years ago. It was 16. So, 4 years to 20 and it's 2022 now. So
it's been 5 years since I've had that sort of bug in me from when I came over. So I'm like an overthinker. So
same. Yeah. Overanalyze everything.
I overanalyze everything and
I think of everything that could go wrong.
Yep.
And I manifest those. Well, I don't manifest, but I play those scenarios out. And I did that with BMX too. Like I wasn't the hucker. You know, people would just throw a trick.
Send it. Yeah.
I'd always overanalyze. I'd look at the ground, like how I'd have to bunny hop onto something. And like, what if my rear peg missed the rail?
Yep.
If that happens, how do I bail? Am I ready to like go over into the grass or am I going onto the rail and down the concrete steps? Like how am I going to escape plan every which way you can think about? And then you end up and usually it worked for me. I'd approach the rail. I'd know that there was that crack where that step down was. So I needed the bunny hop before the crack and then make sure the rear end gets up high enough and down the rail we go. You know, and it's like...
I was the same with BMX as well. Like same sort of...
Ease your way into it.
Yeah. I never just kind of jump in.
But you have to make the jump at some point.
There is a point where you can't just tiptoe anymore.
Right.
And you have to just like, you're on the edge.
Yep.
And you just need to go, right, that's it.
There's no smooth transition.
No, there isn't.
Unless for some reason...
Not with that kind of
Right. Unless
thing.
for some reason you get handed the keys to the machine shop you're working for and now you own it.
Yeah.
You know,
literally,
but that didn't take any sort of like heavy duty leap of faith.
No.
Yeah. It just meant you like waited out your time there.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, I started taking on more sort of commission work, which I also started like a YouTube and all that sort of stuff, which again, started with coming over here and
We should
seeing it work for Americans.
Yep.
It doesn't. I haven't seen many automotive YouTubers make it from England. I'm trying to think of some now.
The Drift Games guys have a
Drift Games are pretty
channel.
good.
Yep.
But they have a massive budget.
Yes.
Driftworks, same sort of thing.
Yeah.
Big money
Yep.
projects and stuff like that. Nobody that's kind of like started like just tinkering on stuff and kind of
Right.
vlogged it and had people come along for the ride with them.
Yep.
If you know what I mean, which is kind of what I've tried to do with my YouTube.
Right.
It's like my YouTube started. I didn't even have a machine
Yep.
when I started YouTube. I had the E28, and I think the first project was the Corvair.
Right.
And then I bought a welder and basically documented like cutting the Corvair up and learning how to TIG weld.
Right.
It was just like, it was more of like for
Documentation.
Me, yeah, like documenting
Right.
my journey sort of thing is
Yep.
what I've tried to do with it.
And we should have plugged that at the very beginning of the episode, but it's just Ain't Dead Yet Garage.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah,
Right,
it's just
on
Ain't Dead
YouTube?
Yet Garage on YouTube.
Yeah.
There's a lot. I think there's like 90 videos on there or something now.
And I totally know how the burnout goes with that.
Yeah.
And you'd been focusing on a lot of work, and when your current project, you're getting more oiled up to like document it.
Yeah.
But when you were coming here, that's what I said, dude, you better bring your camera.
Yeah.
Like you got to film while you're here.
Yeah, which
And
we've tried to do.
Yeah.
I have definitely got at least three good videos out of this trip.
yeah, that's
So
great. Yeah, it's great.
Which is better than what I've done previous, where I've done no filming at all. And
right. Right.
so yeah, for me, the filming, I would rather have someone to pay
Same.
to film.
Same.
Like if YouTube was any kind of business for me, then I'd just get my friends to film it. I've got
Yep.
really good friends that are filmers and stuff, so I'd pay them to do it. But
Right.
it's not viable money wise. I pay enough out on my own on doing the projects
Right.
for that I document them for me, but I document them on
It's
YouTube.
expensive, dude. We talk
not
about
cheap.
that. We
Yeah,
talk
like-
about that. Like there's probably others or more expensive ones, but an automotive based YouTube channel is one of the most expensive expensive YouTube channels that you could ever start. There's so much overhead.
Yep.
You have to, especially if you're starting on a small scale like we are, you have to buy the car.
Yep.
Then you have to spend money on modifying the car and spend
need
money on
space.
you got to spend money on your content.
Yeah.
So it's not like you just have a camera, a couple lights,
Nope.
and you can like just do whatever with low overhead to like go viral and start getting paid by YouTube. So like we're still, I'm a couple years ahead of you as far as like how long I've been doing it, but it's like, is this ever going to pay off?
Yeah.
And you gotta, I have to treat it like it's I have to treat it like if I don't do it, I don't make any money at all. Right.
Yeah.
So when you get like a little bit of money, just a tiny bit of money in a month, you're like, where are the other zeros?
Yep.
On this?
Yeah, yeah.
I worked so hard this month for that.
Spent so many hours doing it.
And spent so much money.
So much bandwidth of your brain.
Like I bought like projects like the Auto Union. I would continue to do stuff like that, but the W108, the 68 Mercedes, the 2F Polo last year, those were projects I took on simply to have content for YouTube. Because I've gotten serious about it. And although I'm not a shop that turns out projects for other people, the projects are tiring, but I put them on specifically for YouTube content because I knew that with the projects I have now, I was getting kind of dry on content. And so the Auto Union project, I'm like immersed full in to like have some content on, but I have to treat it like if I don't do it, I don't pay my bills.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah.
My
Otherwise,
gosh.
there's no motivation.
Yeah, it's so crazy. So
it is a grind. The YouTube thing is a grind. But I tried. So because I'd done the YouTube for like 2 years maybe, and it still wasn't taking off. Like I'm still only at 414 subscribers, which is a lot of people to me. Like me, if you put 414 people in a room in front of me, I wouldn't be able to say a peep.
Right.
I'd be like, no.
Right.
Stage fright. I can't do it. But in obviously in YouTube terms, that doesn't equate to any monetary gain or anything like that. So seeing that number not go up was kind of discouraging.
Yeah.
And then I started realizing that I had the space to take on other people's cars.
Yep.
And then getting more into like the manual machining and stuff, I realized I could afford a small lathe and a mill.
Which you bought.
Which I bought. Managed to find the mill.
Yes.
I came upon the mill
at Rory's.
Total chance. Yeah, Rory Hamilton.
Good friend of ours.
Really good friend.
Shout out to Rory.
Yeah, he's a boy.
He's awesome. Bristol, England.
Yeah, Bristol.
Works for Rolls-Royce Aviation, right?
Yeah, he's like inspection, so he's he's one of the people that I don't get on with in machine shops.
Yep.
Because inspection are the ones that go, nope, that's wrong.
Yep.
And you're like,
that's not
do it again. Yeah,
yep.
You're like 2 microns out or something, and
yep.
I'm like, I don't know what to tell you.
Yeah, got it.
But yeah, he's one of them. So I went to visit Rory, and I'd been down because my mum lives down near him.
Yep.
I went down because my mum lives in Bridgewater, which is like just outside of Bristol. It's not far. So I thought I'll go up and see Rory and see his unit and see his Cadillac. And
yeah, he's got a Cadillac.
He's got like a what is it,
50s, late 50s, I think.
Cadillac, yeah.
Taste of America.
Yeah. So I went down to see him, and I walked in his shop, and there's a Thiel mill. I've never seen one before in my life. Just inside.
It's like a Bridgeport almost.
It's a Bridgeport,
right.
But it's like a fancy Bridgeport. It's like a tool room.
Yep.
It's like a Rolls-Royce tool room machine. So I seen it, and I was like, I have no idea how that works, because it's like it's the total opposite way. It's got like a gear drive for the gearbox. It's not belt driven.
Yeah.
So it's got like a full gearbox on the back of it, and the table, like it's got like a universal table. So
and it's got an electronic controller, right?
Yeah, like electronic, like a CNC aid. It's not like a retrofit. It's just an aid.
Yeah.
For you to look at and go, oh, well, it's got a readout on it, and it'll tell me positions and stuff. But
yeah.
And it was like, yeah, we just took that out of Rolls-Royce. They were closing some department in Rolls-Royce. So they were like, we're either going to scrap it or you can take it. So they shot it in the back of a van and put it in his unit. And,
to save it.
Yeah, to save it. They didn't do anything with it. They didn't know what to do with it.
Right.
It looked it wasn't in the best shape. I had to do a lot of cleanup on it and stuff. And I don't know how much it had been used while it was in Rolls-Royce, but it wasn't in fine fettle, put it that way. It wasn't
right.
You couldn't just get on it and start using it.
Yeah.
So I said, like, would you sell it? And he was like, yeah, I think so, because he got it with one of his mates.
Yeah.
So they were bought. So he was like, I'll message him and I'll let you know. So anyway, I went home. He messaged me like a day later, and he was like, I've got, like, this is how much it'll be. I'll bring it up to you in my van.
In his Sprinter.
In his Sprinter van.
Yep.
Right. Bearing in mind,
they're heavy.
This Miller weighs at least a ton.
Heavy.
At least.
Yeah.
And the footprint's about
and then collets and tooling and all that.
Yeah,
is
and
like
all the tooling that
mega
came with
heavy.
It. Yep.
Yeah.
All of it. So you're talking 2 ton by the time you've put the machine in and
Unreal.
all that sort of stuff. So anyway, I was thinking, I'll bring it up on a trailer or something. I didn't even know he had the Sprinter at this point.
Yeah, back of the van.
Yeah. So he told me the price delivered, and I was like, yes, I will send you the money right now, because it was a steal.
Yep.
So paid for it. He was like, right, I'll come up this weekend.
He sent me photos when it was happening, when he got to your unit. Like, he sent me some photos. I was like, oh my gosh.
Yeah. So he pulls up at the unit. It was early. He'd set off. Yeah, he'd set off at like, he must have left his house at 3 a.m. or something.
As Rory does.
Yeah, it was like 9 o'clock in the morning. And I'm at the unit, and he comes in, and he's in this old Sprinter van.
Just sagging
Old
the bottom.
Sprinter vans in the UK are known for being rotten.
Yeah.
Like, none of them are in good nick.
Yeah.
Ever. So I see it coming in, and I'm like, oh my God, the back end. It's got a tow hitch, like a tow bar on the back.
Yeah.
And that bar is like this far off the floor.
A couple inches.
Yeah, I think I heard the bar hit the floor on the way in, because there's like a dip before you come on like the main road.
Amazing.
And I heard the hitch hit the floor.
And he'd just driven
up
4 hours up. Yeah.
Pulls up, gets out, puts his boots on like a proper trucker.
Yep.
And I'm like,
God, Rory's the best.
you brought it down in this or up in this.
Yeah.
And he's like, yeah, it was fine. Like, totally like blasé about it.
How else am I going to bring it up?
Any issues about it at all.
Yeah.
He was like, yeah, I came up. I thought I'll come early in the morning so nobody sees me on the motorway and stuff. And like, no police pull me or anything. And I'm like, wow.
Unreal.
So I go to the back. We open the doors. The mill's there, like, shoehorned. Like, there was literally, he had to tip the head over, because it's got like you can move the head to 45 degrees, I think.
Yeah.
So he tipped the head over, took like the top mount thing off the top of the machine so it could fit in.
Yeah.
And it was still, he still had to like do that with it to
Angle
bring
it out the doors.
angle it to get it out.
Yeah.
So I was like, how the hell are we going to get this out of here? We haven't got I didn't think we had a forklift, but luckily the unit over the way had one.
Wow.
So we went and got the forklift, and then we were like trying to wheel it out, and then when we picked it up with it in the back of the truck,
The van wouldn't let go because the
started picking it up.
Yeah,
and we're like, right, yeah, up. It's the van's still
van's
following
still
the machine.
coming up. Yeah,
We were like,
exactly.
the wheel gap went from like this to about that.
Yeah, yeah.
And we were like, right, surely.
Insane.
Yeah, so it was a nightmare getting it out. And then anyway, we got it out.
Thank God
then
for the
when
forklift.
we got it out, I looked in the back of the van. He's only got like, I don't know what them IBCs are, litre wise. You know, the massive the plastic IBCs that you fill with like water or oil or whatever.
Yeah,
Big
maybe.
clear IBC. We call
Like
them
totes?
IBCs. I don't know what they're called here.
Totes?
Yeah, it's like a big container
Yeah,
for
yeah.
fluids
Yeah.
full of biodiesel.
Yeah, of course.
So he's probably got 5 ton in the back of this van.
Yep.
It's not even a, what are they? 3 ton?
Probably.
Big long wheelbase.
Probably.
Like 3 ton max.
Yeah, single wheel too, probably, right?
So he's well above his limit.
Jeez.
So just like, what is wrong with you?
Insane.
But he's the best.
Yeah.
I love Rory.
Yeah, it leave it to him to be like, I'll drive 6
I'll
hours up
just
there,
fly
freight
up the
that thing.
country with a.
And not knowing what you had up there to unload it.
Yeah, like he could have turned up and we'd gone, well,
How are we going to get this out?
you know, what we're going to do? Get an engine crane on it. Like,
Yeah.
there's no room to get an engine
Right.
crane in.
Wild.
So it was like, yeah, he's nuts.
I want to do that so bad, man. Like having
Bridgeport and a lathe.
working with the laser machine and now understanding CAD. I mean, I was running a Bridgeport and a Clousing lathe for Nick Acton
Yeah.
back home. Like
Yeah.
on weekends, I'd go up and help him machine some stuff. And he actually used to teach at tech school, so he's a good teacher. Like he's good at like explaining things. And so I'd help run machining operations for him. And so I'm no machinist, but I've had hands on a Bridgeport, hands on with a Clousing lathe. And dude, I want those things so bad. There's so many parts I'd want to make, and
They're
and
just
so,
useful to have. Say if you need a washer,
Yep,
a certain length washer, you can just knock
make
it up.
Yeah, and the fact that you've got that stuff in your unit now is so rad. So did you buy the lathe before the? I mean, I'm sorry,
The first machine
Miller
I bought was the Miller
before the lathe.
before the lathe.
Yeah, the lathe's big.
Yeah, that was the first. No, so I've had
The second
two
one,
lathes.
that's right. The second one is a monster.
My first one, I got from, it was like round the corner from my unit. Actually, it was only in Nunthorpe.
Yep.
My mates, like Elliot, who I have the unit next to, it was one of his mates' dads just had it sat in his shed.
Yep.
It was a Colchester, which is a Clousing.
Oh, cool.
It's the UK version of a Clousing was like the export version of a Colchester.
Huh. Yep. Didn't know that.
So I got that, and it was just a single phase machine. It was only little, had a 3-jaw chuck on it, and
Yeah. Yeah.
it was a good enough little machine. It did me quite well, to be honest, when I had it.
Yep.
But it would take ages for me to do any kind of real metal removal. So if I had like a part that I need to take 50 mil off,
Yeah.
I'd spend more time just getting it down to 50 mil
Yeah.
than I would doing the precision part of the machining where I have to get it right.
Right.
Because it just wouldn't take any decent cuts. So I wanted like a bigger machine. And my last job, I was running a bigger lathe, like a bigger manual lathe, and it was called a Dean Smith and Grace, which is like Dean Smith and Grace is like the lathe from England.
Is it?
Yeah,
Yep.
like they'll be building them from the 50s, I think. They still built them up till about the 70s or 80s.
And changed like hardly anything, I'm sure.
Like all the metals were just, everything they used was just high quality.
Yeah.
All the gears and everything were like, yeah, you wouldn't believe the abuse that them lathes are put to, and they still
Right.
they're still accurate machines.
That's the way Nicks are. Nicks were used machines in machine shops that could no longer like
keep a tolerance
to like 100 thou.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah,
like
yeah.
in the stuff that Nick does is tight to the 10 thou or whatever.
Yeah, yeah.
And so with just a little bit of play.
Yeah.
And, you know, and so these machine shops were
just
were re-upping
getting
on
rid of them
new
and
machines.
getting new stuff.
He got the Bridgeport for like $1.
Yeah.
It was like, it's going on a scrap heap, but we
Yep.
can't legally, the company can't like give this stuff away. We have to scrap
We have
it,
to
or we can sell
take
it.
a payment on
Or we
it.
can sell it. Yeah.
Yeah.
So they sold it to him for like $1 or something like that. So I'm like, I'm not trying to bite off more than I can chew, but I want that stuff so bad in the shop. And I know if I get it here and I end up
Getting into it's really fun.
Yeah.
It's a steep learning curve.
right. Oh, for sure. Yep.
And like getting all the tooling together's enjoyable. Like I liked the idea of trying to find like old Starrett gauges and
Yep.
micrometers and stuff like that.
So
Just
cool.
in like at like auto jumbles and
Yeah.
stuff like that, like sifting through old machine tools,
Yep.
trying to find stuff,
So cool.
which you can do with that sort of machine, and you can't really do it with CNC. CNC
Right.
stuff's it's like cutting edge stuff, so it's
Right.
it's got to be, you've got to go to a certain distributor and you've got to buy new end mills and you've got to
Yep.
have all
Yep.
this gear that's all brand new and expensive. Whereas with the manual stuff, you can still do it with old tooling.
Right.
You can still like go and buy stuff from a car boot sale or whatever and put it to work.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
yeah, it's on the list for me for sure.
yeah, I enjoy manual machining more than CNC just because I'm sure I've got ADHD or something, because I just get bored.
Yeah.
Like if I'm doing CNC, I'm like, I just get bored of pressing the same button and
Yep.
looking at the same part day in, day out. With the manual stuff, you are, even if you're doing more of one thing,
Right. You're setting up the
everything's
operations.
different
and-
every time.
right.
It's never the same
Yep.
process, because you'll do, say if you're doing for instance, if you are doing like a production run on 5 parts,
Yep.
you'll do like, by the 5th part, you'll have it figured out. Like you'll have started in the first one and been like, right, I'll do it this way. And then you get to the second one, you're like, right, I'll do it this way.
Right.
And you get a bit better. And then you move to the third one, you're like, right, I'll get a bit better. And it's like you can progress like that with a manual, but you can't really do that with CNC. It's
Right. Right. Automated.
all automated. So
Right.
once you've got it set up and you press go, that's it. It's that again till you're done.
Right.
But
Exactly.
with manual stuff, you're involved, and everything you make's got its own nuances, and
Yep.
it's more of like a handmade type feel.
Right, for
to it.
sure.
It's more of like a curated thing
Yep.
than the CNC stuff. Like
Yep.
when I do when I make parts for people, I try to put a bit of sort of detail into stuff. Like
Right.
I'll put like, instead of say a chamfer, I'll put a radius on something. Or if I'm doing like for instance, I had Tom Lillicore's E30 touring in the garage. I must have had it for about a year. Putting an M52 in it and all the Z3 running gear and stuff. And he wanted raised engine mounts, so I made him some raised engine mounts. But I put little like groove details in it.
Yeah.
So like every few mil there was a little radiused groove, just
Yep.
to give it like a bit of a
Texture.
like a bit of a
Right.
bit more of a thing to it.
Yep.
Just stuff like that. But you can't really, well, you can do that with CNC, but it's
Yeah,
the
not as
machine's
gratifying.
doing it. It's not as
Yeah.
each one of those little slots I did by hand, and
Yeah.
I knew how much to put in,
Yep.
like on the dial. I knew how much to wind it in, and then to do it at the right speed so that it like feel the metal cut and make sure
Right.
it's not going to burr up or vibrate and all
Yep.
that sort of stuff. So
That's awesome.
yeah, I enjoy that stuff. So I'm trying to sort of push to do more of the machining work than the work, because I was doing quite a lot of working on other people's cars.
Right.
Between Tom's E30 that I've just mentioned, did 5 stud rear end with a limited slip out of Z3.
Yep.
So that basically full Z3 running gear, like with a 2.8. And I had my mate Chris Chapman's classic Subaru that I just did. That was like, take everything off the bottom. Well, not everything. I didn't take the engine out. Rear frame off, powder coat the frames, zinc bolts, kind of like a light version of what I did with the E28, but I didn't have to do any rust repairs.
Yep, which is good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because that would have just been like, I don't like doing rust repairs on my own cars. So if I can stay away from it, I will.
Well, and the machines allow you to do more machining
yeah,
jobs.
and I can do like the machine work
Right,
instead of doing. Because I'm better at machining than I am at rust repairs.
Yeah,
which is how I look at it. Like,
yeah. And you'll be able to utilize those machines on your most recent project that you're working on.
Yeah.
Which
that was a big reason as to why I've stopped taking cars. Because apart from the E28, which I did get done, don't get me wrong, I did it in a pretty fast time frame, but it was COVID.
Right.
So I wasn't doing anything else.
Yep.
And luckily Tom was quite cool about me just like picking away at his E30 as and when.
Right.
So I managed to get the E28 done, but in terms of a big project, I didn't feel like I had any time to sort of put into to building something for the garage.
Yep.
You know, to like show the extent of what I want to do.
Yep.
With cars.
But on this next project.
But the next project.
Yeah, this one I'm real excited about because I've had one of these, but didn't do what you're going to do. Mm-hmm. So it'll be really cool seeing you tackle this project, not just as you figure it out and learn as you go, but the fact that it's existing in England, which makes the project that much more special.
Makes it a lot more weird.
Which is a square body Chevy.
Yep.
With
a Cummins.
A Cummins
6BT. Or as you would call it, a 12 valve.
We call them 6BTs.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're 6BTs. It's like a 6BT, a 12 valve, a P pump. Yeah. You know, people just kind of say what they want to say. But yeah, so you've got a Bosch pump, 12 valve, 6BT, Cummins that you're going to put behind a square body.
Yep.
Or in a square body. Single cab, long box.
Yep.
2-wheel drive.
Yep. From
North Carolina.
Yes.
Originally.
Yep.
But you're going to body drop and bag it.
Yes.
Yes.
So it'll be, I was just going to leave the 350 in it because it had a good wrench 350 motor in it.
Yep.
But it couldn't get it to run. I had a few friends. I mean, I'm by no means an engine builder.
Right.
And I don't know anything about carbs.
Yeah.
Or anything like that. So it was like a total unknown for me. I don't really know anything about V8s. I know they're very simple.
Yeah.
But I just had no sort of motivation to properly dig into that engine and gearbox system.
Right.
That
headphone cable keeps hitting the post, and it's like
making the ting noise.
Yeah. Okay, we got it. We got
it. So the engine ended up being a nightmare. It just didn't want it didn't want to run.
Yeah,
I had a few people look at it. I couldn't get it to run. Like I was at the point. I was at the impasse of start throwing parts at it to see if that fixes it.
Yeah.
Or just to go the other way and do something totally different.
I mean, and the route you're going now is like perfect.
So it kind of fell into my lap. It kind of like the 6BT was kind of a happy accident.
Yeah.
Someone that I know from being near my unit, I've known him before that, but he had a DAF 150 horse box, which the 6BT came in. So he found it in some farm up on the moors. It was abandoned. It didn't run. He just went over to the owners and was like, he's selling that horse box because he knows about 6BT. He's got tractors and stuff, so he loves like
diesel
big
engines
diesels,
right? Like
pulling motors, basically,
right?
So he went over and he asked, and they were like, "Yeah, it's just been sat out there for a few years. We're not doing anything with it." So he was like, "Well, would you sell it?" So they said, "Yeah, we'll sell it." So he bought it. Didn't pay a lot for it. Came up with another one of my mates, Steve, the next weekend or whatever, and got it fired up in about 10 minutes.
Yep.
Just put some starter fluid in the intake or something, and it just fired straight up.
Yep.
Drove it back, which he shouldn't have done, to be honest. Drove it back to his sort of wherever he was. I think he kept it on a farm, and then he just sat on it for a while. He didn't know what he was going to do with it. He was on about taking the horse box like cab off and putting like an older truck cab over it, like something like your cab over
right
sort of shell. So he was going to do that, and then he was just like, I don't have the time. He's got a wife and kids and all that stuff. He works away, so he was like, I think I'll just sell it. I'll just take the box off and sell the engine, because the engines and gearboxes they do good
valuable.
money. Yeah. They do a lot more than he paid for it.
Yeah.
So yeah, I knew he was going to do that. So I messaged him. I was just like, how much do you want for that 6BT? So he gave me a price. I was like, yep, cool.
Awesome. Yeah, you sent me the video of you there with it running.
Yeah, yeah.
So that's like key.
Yeah, and I seen it. I went up before he started ripping it to bits, and seen it in the truck and running, and heard it and how it started up and everything.
Yeah.
And then within a week, I think he got it out in a week. Just went up and hammered on it and got it out.
Yeah.
Dropped it off at my unit, and then it's sat on a pallet. So,
and what's funny
waiting
is
for me to start cutting the Chevy up.
And for people who don't know what the DAFs are, it came out of a cab over truck.
Yes.
So this was, and surprisingly, so my 6BT that's in my 52 cab over, which most people probably don't even know.
Yeah.
I have, because
about that, it's a sore subject.
It just sits. And now that I live in Tennessee, it's up in New Hampshire.
Yeah.
At my dad's shop, unfinished. But anyway, 52 Chevy cab over with a 12 valve P pump in it, with a 5-speed gearbox behind it, but it's the NV 4500, which
out
is
of the Dodge.
Yes, right out of the Dodge. So yours has a ZF5 behind it.
Yes,
which is pretty cool. But since it's a cab over, it's got the linkage that goes all
all
the way up
to the top
of the motor.
Yeah.
So also your trip here was advantageous, because you were able to order some ZF5 like shifter top mounts
parts,
and stuff for your ZF5 that people in America weren't going to ship to England.
Yeah.
So so being a 6BT with a ZF5 behind it, that'll be an amazing, like, now that you've heard the engine run, the truck drove to where they pulled it.
Yep.
He delivered it to you, and now you're going home with some ZF5 parts where you'll be able to like
put it
cut
all
in your
together.
tunnel and like put a shifter there and stuff. It's gonna be so sick.
So patina trucks as a whole aren't that popular in the UK.
Yep.
The American stuff in the UK is mostly sort of 50-year-olds and up.
Yeah.
It's all like mostly older men, and women.
And they probably like the
and they like clean
stuff.
cars. They like restored stuff that's been nicely polished, and they like all the chrome polished, and they like the big gas guzzling V8s and all that sort of stuff.
Right.
They don't like. They've got no interest in a DAF motor,
right?
Like an engine out of a horse box, or a diesel for that matter. They drive diesels every day, so they're not like a sought after thing. Whereas the V8s, like LSs are like, you never see them in the UK,
right?
Because they cost so much to run,
right?
Nobody wants to run one, and especially in the American stuff,
right.
So I personally love big rigs. I like wagons. I like
likewise
big diesels. I like V8 diesels, straight 6 diesels. They're all sick. So it's kind of I love trucks. I love big diesels, and I love patina bagged cars.
Yep.
So it's like I'm putting
best of all the worlds,
everything together in one package for me, sort of thing. So it is it's different. It'll definitely be different for the UK. I know it's a pretty common thing in the States. I've seen all the photos and videos. I've seen like Mike Finnegan's square body ramp truck that's coming. That's 12 valve. There's all the power driven diesel boys that build stupid horsepower 12 valves.
Yep.
But yeah, the ZF5's a bit different as well. I know there won't be many square bodies with a ZF5 in them, because mostly square bodies people just put the NV45, which is a smaller box in general, like its general footprint is smaller.
And the ZF5 is a better trans. I guess people
it's definitely a heavy duty.
It is.
It's of the truck it's out of was a 7.5 ton wagon.
And the ZF5 was behind my OBS dually as well in the IDI 73. Yeah, that's like a heavy duty.
So they're a heavy duty box.
Yep.
So it'll take some stick.
But it'll be great to see that thing, like all the work you're gonna do, bagging it and body dropping it. We were just in Charlotte, where our buddy Matt Wallen came out with his body dropped.
Yeah, that was amazing to see.
Square body, single cab, long box, same truck. So you two were kind of. I mean, I was kind of involved too because I love talking that type of stuff. But trying to get your notes before you go home.
Yeah,
and
like taking photos. And, just chewing Matt's lug off about it. Really,
because so many people will just buy Porterbuilt or whatever,
just buy a full kit,
bolt on front cross member. But if you're gonna cut it up and do it yourself, it's so much more gratifying. Yeah,
and
that's great.
You can get creative with it and all that sort of stuff. So I'll be machining bits for it and doing all my own sort of like fabricating.
Yeah, motor mount stuff you'll be able to make.
Yeah,
so cool.
Everything.
Yeah, so cool.
There'll be all sorts of stuff I can do for it.
Yeah.
So make my own shift bar. I'll have like a big shift bar.
Yep.
Stuff like that. So
like the one I have in the Corvair. I
like that kind of.
I had to walk through a junkyard near me in New Hampshire.
Yeah, to find that.
I knew my height I wanted, and I knew what kind of bend it needed to get over and up to reverse and not hit the steering wheel for how high I wanted it.
Yeah.
And then I just started. And there was a shifter sticking out of a transfer case, just laying in the mud. Didn't even have threads on top for any sort of shift knob. And I was like, "What do you want for that?" And he's like, $5. I'm like, "It's mine."
Yep.
Came home.
Welded it up.
Came home. Yeah. So what's on it now? And you probably know this. What's on it now? There was no threads on top for a shift knob.
Nope.
So I took, since the 52 cab over has the Cummins with an MV4500 in it now, that's going to run a different shifter out of the MV4500 box. So I had the original shift knob, just the black shift knob from 1952 out of my cab over laying around. So I put a gauge in there and figured out what threads there were, cut some threads on the top. So the shift knob that's in the Corvair on the custom shifter
is still out of a Chevy.
Is the factory shift knob out of my cab over. So that one little part is being reused in the car.
Which is sick. It's got like a big rig shifter in it.
That's hot rodding.
Sick.
You know what I mean? Like that's hot rodding.
Yeah.
So yeah, it'll be really cool to see some of the bits you machine in that truck.
Yeah, and I'm going to do my best. Like the C10 is kind of my jump back into YouTube.
Yes. Which is amazing.
I'm trying to really sort of take my time to document it well.
You should. And for anyone listening, now's the time to subscribe to that channel because you're diving into it as soon as you get home.
Yeah. I mean, I've still got the videos from here, two of the videos to do from here.
Yep.
And then that's it. I've started I'm well underway with I've took the cab off and that's all to be revealed and shown and how I did it and all that sort of stuff. So we've got like all of the chopping of the cab up to do.
Yep. It'll be fun.
Making mounts and cutting my subframe and all that sort of stuff.
So cool.
Making bag mounts and just loads of fab work, machining work.
Yep.
So it should be good. And I'm going to do it like kind of bring the restoration side into it as well.
Yeah.
So my plan is to get all my bolts zinced.
Nice.
Do everything, like have it underneath, be like a brand new truck.
Yeah, that'll be awesome.
So powder coat all the arms and I've got like all fresh hardware and but then the top be all farm truck. Basically, I'm pretty sure it was a farm truck. It's battered.
Yeah, it looks like
there's barely any. There's no paint on the bonnet. And,
yeah, that'll be a cool project.
All that sort of stuff. But
yeah. So maybe next spring or summer I'll be over again.
Yeah,
and maybe
we'll take the.
Yeah,
hopefully take the square body out for a rip.
Yep. Either you'll be done or you'll be nearing the finish line.
It should be at least sat in the unit.
And yard drivable.
Yeah. Pretty much, yeah.
So awesome.
I can turn it on and we can make big 6BT turbo noises and
another
thing to mention, it's got because the 6BT is out of a DAF wagon, it's got an air pump on the side next to the power steering pump.
We talked about that. Yeah.
So
a compressor. Yeah, compressor. Belt driven compressor.
Yep.
Or gear.
It's gear.
That's right.
In the gears.
Yes, that's right.
It's on the fuel pump gear.
Yep.
So that's got its own feed for the clutch because the clutch
pneumatic
has
hydraulic.
A pneumatic over hydraulic clutch. So when I depress the clutch and let it out, it'll blow off the excess air. So
Yep.
whenever you change gear, it'll be like a bigger. It goes tss,
Yep.
and then change gear.
So good.
So yeah, and it'll run the air ride, like it'll fill
Right,
my tank,
right.
and then I can have.
Yeah.
So it's basically like having, if I do put another compressor in, like if I put a Vi-Air in or whatever, I've got 2 compressors.
Right. Yep. And
So-
in a belt or engine driven compressor is
More reliable.
because you're constantly building pressure while the vehicle's running. A lot of old mini trucker guys, my buddy Mo included, will convert old AC compressors to compressors
air.
to fill air.
Yeah.
Yep.
a
That's
sick
really cool.
idea.
So Mo had built a second gen Sonoma, like a mid 90s GMC Sonoma, short bed, single cab, body dropped, custom built the whole frame, thing laid body on like 22s or something. And because he had body dropped it down over the frame, or he'd custom built the frame, the factory cradle was factory basically, and he had relocated the AC compressor to just above the motor, and had cut a hole in the hood, and there's a pulley sitting right up atop through the hood with a belt on it, and it looks like a blower pulley, but it's not. It's the air compressor to run the air suspension.
To run the airbags.
So cool.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It
so
is.
cool.
It's sick.
That's a cool little added bit to that 6PT.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it's a bit, because of what it's out of, it's quite an oddball.
And it'll make it sound awesome when you drive it.
Yeah. it
With
will,
that little added
100%,
noise.
Yeah,
I
just
love
like
that stuff.
pulling a trailer with a car with the E28 in the back, hopefully.
Yes.
Like just banging gears and
Yep.
making all the smoke and all the 6BT noises.
Yeah,
So
that'd be awesome.
I can't wait.
Well, we did a little questionnaire. Let me see. We did a little questionnaire on Instagram to see if we could get any questions coming in.
Yep.
We've already done a good hour and a half. So let me see if there's any specific ones along the wavelength, about what we're talking about here. Let me see. We got a few. We got a couple. We just put this out before we recorded.
Yeah,
I should have
like
put this
last
out
minute.
beginning of the day so we could get a handful coming in. And I kind of did say, just ask us questions. Ollie from Supermade said,
Good dude. Very good dude.
Good dude. Yeah, shout out Ollie. Said, is there going to be another Wörthersee trip? Doesn't sound like it. Unless in the
look
coming
like it,
years,
but-
like Andy starts to do more something else with XS there, and it makes the trip down there worth it. But as of right
Yeah.
now, it's not.
I mean, even
looking
if
good.
you do, if excess even is a thing,
Police are gonna mess
police
with
are
you.
just gonna friggin' murder everybody.
Yeah, so we're not sure. That'd be great.
We'd love to.
Yeah,
Everybody
as we've
would
already-
love to do it again, but
So 2 questions were the same question from 2 different people. So Jimmy S. Jetta and JF Chris, or JFCHRS. They both asked almost verbatim. Wow, almost verbatim. What's the biggest difference between the US and UK car scene? And then JF Chris said, what's the biggest difference between cars here and in the UK? So I guess what's a cooler one is, since you did 3 years at H2O, just went to Congregation, which is a wild card show, but
Yeah.
3 years at H2O, and we did Staggered, my buddy Mike Lynch's show.
yes.
What's the biggest difference between the US and UK car scene? Because I've got some answers for that too, since I've done a lot of car shows in Europe and UK. But
So for me, it's probably. Oh, that's a hard question.
what's the first take when you come to a? It's crazy how similar things are.
Yeah.
which is surprising.
But I suppose the internet's kind of.
The internet's to blame for that,
Helped for
or
that.
helped that.
Yeah.
yeah, because people
People see
can
what goes.
people can
on.
look on Instagram or watch YouTube of someone in England building something and emulate that style here
Yeah.
without ever going over there.
Yeah.
So it's not like it's not an isolated ecosystem of cars where it's like you go to some random island of people who are detached from society and you're like, wow, this is so crazy. But I don't know. There's a few things. For me, it's the first thing I notice is the difference in some cars. Like a lot of the cars that we didn't get here that are there that aren't just there, but they're like motor swapped, totally built, totally custom.
Yeah.
And it might be a car you've never seen before. And it's like, whoa, now I'm looking at one that's like totally modified and crazy. That's the first thing I noticed, not necessarily the people.
Yeah.
You know?
I think people-wise, it's about the same age group, seems to be.
Yeah.
Depending on what you're into. I'd probably say the biggest difference in terms of the cars would be levels of restoration.
Yeah, UK goes pretty crazy.
Americans don't really need, unless it's a concourse car where you're
Right.
doing it to be at like Pebble Beach
Yeah.
or whatever. It doesn't seem like America does sort of stripping the underside of a car, relinering it and all that sort of stuff, zinc-hard.
Few
I mean,
people.
people are getting into it now, like Tommy and
Yeah.
like the likes of restorations. Like I know Adam LZ does it as well. With,
Yeah. Well, I
with
mean,
his stuff.
and random people that build. I mean, I know some friends from Connecticut that are in the Mark One Volkswagen scene.
Yeah.
That are just
Totally restored.
R32 all-wheel drivetrain. Everything's shaved and powder coated and like polished, and it's like, yeah, almost like Jay McTolbridge type. Like
Yeah.
detail the undercarriage of the car.
Yeah.
Polish the control arms and then drive it.
Yeah.
You know, and then
Yeah.
repolish and clean everything
There's a lot more of that.
in the UK.
like,
Yeah, I agree.
People into any sort of cars, Ford people,
Escorts.
they love
Escort guys
fully
are nuts.
restored
Yep.
cars.
But also, they're not afraid of a project taking 5 to 7 years.
No.
You know, like
Yeah.
here, and I'm one of them. I'm one of the people that make that demographic the way it is in America because all I want, like, I don't care if it's rusty, and that's the style I like anyway. But I just want it mechanically and
Sound.
like done. Yeah, I just want to go drive it. Like, I really don't want a project to take 5 years because my ADD won't let me. That's why I abandoned the cab over for the time being because I'm like, it's taking too long.
It's a lot of work.
Yeah. But and that's why, as we're recording this, we literally came upstairs after finally separating the Auto Union 1000 SP body.
Yeah.
So
which
as
is-
we speak, it's downstairs. Body's on the lift. Frame and chassis is under it.
which
So
is sick.
I'm so stoked that we got that
Yeah, I
done
am.
while you were here. Because the plan was to put that off until you were gone and utilize the time you were here to like go do Chattanooga things or Southern
And
things.
like tourism sort of stuff. But,
Which we did do, but it was really cool that you were jazzed up to like wrench in the shop with me.
well, for me, I find that wrenching with my friends is it's the fastest way to bond with people.
Yeah.
Because it's a totally different thing. Working in that sort of environment with someone really, like, it gets you excited for stuff and
It motivates you.
it motivates you. And
Yeah.
and having someone there to bounce stuff off and
Right.
um,
Even if it's hypothetical
you're
ideas.
you're both going into a task. You've both got to figure it out. You've both got to be like giving each other idea, like, oh, we'll date this off, and I'll do this while you do this, and you like help like pass each other spanners, and
Yeah.
just it's like a bonding
Yeah.
exercise. It is,
Yeah. It was fun. Yeah. I'm glad we got a chance to do that.
yeah, and
Yep.
it's like stuff. It's a memory that we both have of building that car.
Yeah. Hopefully when the car's done and it's laying rockers on the pavement, it'll be, hey, you remember that time you came over and
took
helped separate it?
Yeah,
and,
helped separate the
and you
the
saw
body.
the beetle pan like not shortened and not like all rusty.
Yep.
And then this car all taken apart, and hopefully at some point they're together and driving. And
Yeah,
yeah, super excited about that. I'm glad we took the time to do that and got a chance to tinker in this shop since it's like my new
it's a really nice shop. Yeah,
It's
really
yeah.
really nice sort of. It's a nice amount of space.
Yeah, the space is amazing.
Yeah,
it really is.
I think it's actually bigger than my unit.
Yeah, I think
it's not
so.
as tall.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah, for what I lost in
floor
overhead
space.
height, I gained in floor
in
space.
floor space.
Yeah, it is a little bit wider.
Yeah, it's definitely wider.
Yeah, because I've been in your unit.
Yeah. I can't fit 3 cars
Right.
wide
Yeah.
in my unit. Well, I can, but it'd have to be 3 small cars.
I can fit 4 wide if I didn't have the welding table or the air compressor down there. I've fit 4 wide before for storms with the Century, the Dually, not the Dually, the OBS, the Century, the Corvair, and the Diplomat, and then the 700 tucked behind it.
I think I remember seeing that photo.
Yeah,
and
it
being
was
like,
before the lift was in.
That's a squeeze.
It was squeezed, but we had
Yeah.
tornado warnings, and we have a lot of like old trees around, and I figured it'd be safe to just tuck them inside.
Yeah, and I've seen the weather turn
We had
quick here. And
pretty hard tornado
yeah, it's
warnings yesterday.
Pretty. It'd definitely worry me if I knew that was coming on and I had loads of cars sat outside.
Yep. Yeah, we waited it out. We were in Nashville yesterday, and it's like a 2-hour drive back to chat, and we stopped halfway to like stop and get food because we were driving underneath that storm that had multiple tornadoes that had touched down.
Yeah.
And we're like, well, rather than drive under this for the next 2 hours in the dark at night in the monsooning rain and heavy winds, we'll just stop. And so luckily after we stopped and ate, we just followed
it was like pretty clear all the way back.
Yeah, we got here to my place and the beetle body had been blown off the concrete into the dirt.
Yeah, so that's how you know it was windy.
Yeah, real windy.
I mean, it was windy where we were.
Yeah.
And I don't think we got to like the middle of it.
No, I don't think we had been through the heart of it.
No.
Yeah.
But it was definitely windy in Nashville.
Well, you got a chance to see like really good weather and experience some like typical Southern like summer, late summer, like bad weather.
The weather's been, until last night, it was just perfect.
And today's amazing too. Tomorrow's supposed to be the same. You fly out tomorrow, but tomorrow starts the Chattanooga Motor Car Festival. So thankfully we'll have like a first half of the day to experience some of that.
Cars and coffee. And
yeah. And I think the YouTube video will be up by the time this goes live, but Volkswagen of America just dropped off the ID4 for the weekend. So we'll get a chance to bum around.
Freaking spaceship.
Yeah. Yeah. So Volkswagen, another announcement, Volkswagen has invited me to be like a VIP, like invited guest of the Motor Car Festival this weekend. Unreal. Like no idea why, but awesome.
Don't question it.
And they asked if I wanted a car for the weekend. And even though I want to bum around in the Corvair, I was like, absolutely. Don't want to say no to that. And so they just dropped off an ID4 for the weekend. So we'll get a chance to bum around in that too.
Yeah, fully electrical.
Craziness.
Yeah, SUV type.
Not my style, but it'll be really cool to drive a brand new Volkswagen ID4 around. So that'd be kind of cool. So we'll enjoy that. And yeah.
Make the most of my last less than 24 hours.
Yeah.
It's like 16.
Yeah, absolutely. Something. Glad we got a chance to get this in. Plug everything you got going on. You've got a personal and Ain't Dead Yet Instagrams.
Yeah, so I've got Ben_ain't dead yet. Ain't dead.
No, ain't dead.
It's ain't dead.
Ben_ain't dead.
And at ain't dead yet garage.
Yep, on Instagram.
And then the YouTube is just ain't dead yet garage.
That's right. That's where you're posting most everything.
Yeah. I do have a big cartel, but all those links are in my Instagrams and stuff, so
that's right.
I do like stickers and I have a few long sleeves and stuff like that. I will be doing like more merch in the coming months, but as it starts getting, I don't tend to do summer merch.
Yeah.
It doesn't seem to do as well.
Yeah.
So I like doing jumpers and hoodies and stuff, so I'll be doing them again.
I've been slacking on that too. I've been meaning to do a fall drop for Ludwig's Garage, or even bring another Governor's Club drop back. And I mean,
the stuff we do just lends itself to being like the colder months in the garage.
Yeah.
Keep them warm.
I've had so much going on. I haven't even had a chance to like think about designs or anything like that.
Really.
So I think after Motor Car Festival, when things start to like calm down a little bit, if they ever do, I'm in the same boat for sure.
But yeah, just I'm building the C10 on the YouTube.
Yep.
And yeah, if you need anything machining
in England or anywhere,
in
you
England,
could mail something.
You could mail stuff if you wanted to.
Yeah.
Something making I can do, like bespoke stuff. So
yep.
Say if you had to have a shift knob made in England, drop me a message.
Yeah.
And yeah, I love doing anything like that. So, but yeah, for the most part, that's about it. I think
it'll help transition you from your regular job into
help me live the life I want to live. Sort of thing.
Yeah, and it's not like you want it for free. You want to put the work in.
I'll do the work. Don't get me wrong.
Well, subscribe to Ben's YouTube channel. So stoked we got a chance to do this.
Yeah.
So stoked that you're here, dude.
We had to do it.
Yep.
Yeah.
And finally got this done. Much better to do it in this environment, in this scenario, than in a hotel room somewhere.
Yeah.
So glad we got a chance to do that. Subscribe to his YouTube channel, Instagram, the John Ludwig YouTube channel. You guys probably saw, I did start a LUDWICK'S podcast YouTube channel, posted Steve Paris's and Chris Purr's episodes there. And then I did that solely to not disrupt the algorithm of like 15-minute or so vlog style episodes. And then all of a sudden like a 2-hour plus video. But immediately once I did that, I realized that if I was going to miss an upload in a week out of the vlog or out of the shop episodes, having a podcast episode to fill that gap to keep the weekly uploads there
just keeps the algorithm
was
happy.
Worth it. And I don't know if having a 2-hour video once a week or once every other week is really going to disrupt that. So I've moved them back to the personal or the main YouTube account, which is just John Ludwig. Instagram, john.ludwick. Ludwig's Garage. The Governor's Club, even though I haven't posted anything there in forever. Got to get back on that.
Yeah.
But so stoked we did this. Thank you, everybody, for watching. Thank you again to you who are on the Patreon. That's been huge. I've been trying to stay as active on that as possible. The fact that there are over a dozen of you on there is massive. If you are interested in supporting some of the projects, some of the builds, this podcast, the YouTube channel, all that stuff, there's a link to the Patreon in the podcast description, as well as the description in this video. Cannot thank you guys enough for all of the support. We will see you guys soon.
Hopefully.
Thank you.
Yep.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.